Welcome to the Heartwork Podcast, where we delve into stories, struggles, and triumphs of entrepreneurship, leadership, and personal growth. I'm Dr. Sarah.
And I'm Dr. Marisa. We're here to guide practitioners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and those just navigating the complexities of life on a journey of discovery that explores the dance between passion and strategy, heart and hustle.
With candid conversations, insightful interviews, and plenty of laughs, get ready to uncover how leading with heart can transform your business and life. Let's dive in. So welcome back to another episode of the Heartwork Podcast. We are excited because I have somebody on here that I actually met way back in networking days in Knoxville. And Kevin Green, we have as our guest today. He is a transformational speaker and career coach who helps people find careers that fit so they can create lives they love. His journey from playing it safe in corporate roles to building a thriving personal chef business, which I'm excited to hear more about because all the fun, yummy food I'm sure you have made in your past, while also a speaking career and allowing people to be able to see how they can take responsible risks, releasing control, stepping into their authentic leadership. And from what I've heard of you, you're inviting people to come out of that silence because you've done it yourself. You're now boldly sharing your message of transformation, peeling back the layers of lies, limiting beliefs to help others discover their purpose, passion, and potential. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Dr. Sarah, Dr. Marisa. I'm excited to be here, excited to chat and kind of share my story.
Yeah. So obviously we have known each other I feel like briefly. I feel like I know more of you just from past networking and getting to hear a little bit of your story. And obviously knowing that you were an educator, a personal chef, now really changed to motivational speaker, helping people to really kind of find their passion and their purpose. So give us a quick version of really kind of what lights you up in the work that you really want to provide to this world.
Yeah, so my story is a story of pivots and several quitting stories along the way, but ultimately it's this sense of knowing that I was made for more and I wanted to do big things. And so that's caused me to have to make some changes along the way when things didn't fit. And so that's required some sacrifice and some risk along the way.
Sure. So where are you at now? What is it that you are really kind of doing and what are you geeking out about?
Geeking out about, great question. So I like to say that I'm a personal chef turned professional speaker. And so the last 8 months, I've been laying the foundation to make that transition from full-time personal chef to full-time professional speaker. And so I'm on a mission to kind of, personally, it's a motive to play in bigger sandboxes, but also to impact more people with this message, this finding your purpose, discovering your passion, and developing your potential, what I call my 3 Ps.
Yeah. So obviously some people, they go through life, they develop this career, they develop a successful pathway, and then they get to this pivotal point or this anchoring time where things kind of move in a different direction. So obviously having been a personal chef and having a passion in food and sharing that for so long, how did you shift into motivational speaking and really kind of almost do you have one hat off and we're putting another one on? Did you have a breaking point where it was this isn't it for me anymore? I'm being called into another area. What was happening in your heart, body, and soul as you were realizing that you needed to continue on in another direction?
Well, I don't know. We're going to go to the deep end already. You want to go there?
Yeah, let's do it.
We're going there. Come on, what do you think this is?
Yeah. I thought we were going to start in the shallow. Okay, so I've been in the culinary world. Oh, make a splash. No, that's great. Let's get into it. So it's 2025. So in 2023, 2 things happened that really caused me to pause and to think about what this was all about. And so I'll say this too, I had my chef business. I stepped away to teach high school and start a culinary program and realized I missed a lot of the things that came along with having my own thing, the autonomy, the control, et cetera, et cetera. In 2023, I went through an unexpected divorce as well as a failed business partnership. I thought this was going to be the thing that would catapult me into whatever, but it was a toxic relationship at best, and I got out before I got too far in. But what it taught me was that you can be blinded by ambition. You should have some boundaries and ask better questions up front. but it gave great clarity into what mattered most to me. Core values like autonomy and control, and wanting to have my own thing and ownership and agency. And so I've been in front of groups in different stages and a variety of capacities over the years, and leadership positions and faith-based environments and different things, and saw some speaker groups in the country that had coaching programs and communities. And I kind of just set that aside literally for 3 years. And I was like, I don't know what to do with this, but I'm intrigued. And after 2023, I was like, you know what, well, because the thing was, I never really had to show up on social media or anything like that unless I was authentic. And I didn't really have a way to say what was inside of me. And after 2023, I was like, now's the time. Like, I've got something to say. There's someone who needs to hear what I have to say, and I've got to do this. So.
Okay, so take us there. What's your message?
Well, it's that very thing. It's that 3 Ps. I grew up, I had a great home, mom, dad, all the things. But there was this sense growing up through different filters where it's like, let's live to pay the bills, barely get by, and maybe take a vacation a year. But like, that's not living. We weren't made just to survive. We were made to thrive. And so it's been almost 20 years, but if you can take the college degree and you can take all the lessons learned in my career, if I had focused on those 3 Ps on the front end, it would have filtered so many things for me. And now it can help people go further faster. So if you think about it, if you can find your purpose, identity, if you can discover your passion, activity, and develop your potential, your expression takes care of everything else.
I love that. What do you think? So, like, obviously, hindsight is always 2020, right? So, you developed kind of this framework for yourself now moving forward. What do you think it was in your past business and partnership that really started? Like, what were those tangible things that really started to open your eyes to how toxic that relationship was and what you wanted to do to now incorporate moving forward, how to teach others to look for those things and continue to promote their own mental and emotional health and well-being as they're developing their partnership? Because you could have easily gone from, I had this toxic relationship with a business partner. Why don't I just do my own thing on my own in the culinary space? But now you're here out there sharing your journey with others. So take us through kind of that story place in that business and now how that filters in with like other people being able to recognize that.
Yeah, so we're on video now, so I smile a lot naturally. In fact, my 8th grade basketball coach nicknamed me Smiley, and sometimes that gets people in trouble because your kindness can be mistaken as naivete. And so that was part of the equation a few years ago. I was not very skilled in a high level sense of security of self. I was not very skilled in certain communication practices, boundary setting. And so, I was in a situation where I had bright eyes and big ambitions, but like I didn't really focus on alignment and core values and personality dynamics. I didn't ask enough questions up front. Maybe I didn't do enough research on what I was potentially getting involved with. So there's that. So like it's worth doing your homework. It's worth binging on YouTube, which I may or may not have done, to learn some things. In fact, that's one of the reasons I'm doing what I'm doing now is I want to be that resource for someone else. So like when they're hurting, when they need help, maybe I have a collection of videos on YouTube that I can go spend a weekend and binge on to help them and speak exactly to what they need to hear after what I've been through. Secondly, I'll say this, like, it's funny, like where story is all the rage. It's the buzzword story. Like you got to have a story to tell. But if you think about your favorite movie, it's because of the story. And, I grew up in a religious environment and you hear all this about like spiritual warfare, and that's not what we're here to talk about today. But I will tell you this. Like, if you are meant to do something significant, if you are meant to do great things, you will be thwarted and you will be tested and evil exists. And that's what I experienced in that process, because it wasn't that someone wanted to help a small business. It's this spirit that someone wanted to bully someone else to get what they wanted. They realized potential, but it was wanted to be taken advantage of. And so we as people, like, we need to know who we are. We need to know what to do and then how to do it. But we have to have a sense of self, security, and have some boundaries and healthy communication skills.
How would you invite somebody? Because I know what my journey's been, and Marisa does as well, when it comes to discovering your self-worth, right? And understanding who you are and understanding what your purpose is. Because we were actually just at a conference this past couple of weeks ago, and there was a huge conversational piece around, why do you wake up in the morning? to get
Yeah.
up and go do what you do, right? Like, why is it that you put your socks on, put your clothes on, you go out and serve, you go do the things that you do, and you don't come home just exhausted? You know, that you are filled with joy, you're filled with this overflow. But honestly, what I watch a lot of people do is they put somebody else's purpose on their life outside of understanding their own purpose for themselves. So, how would you invite somebody into starting to discover some of that for themselves?
Yeah, that's a great question. I will say this. So I was 28 years old and I was a corporate chef for a large national dining chain. And when they started to make changes in the C-suite, things got really, really tough in that corporate environment. People were being let go or they were like getting out before they got that pink slip. And I was there and I looked at my coworkers who had a degree in accounting, was working in finance, had a mortgage, 3 kids, and a goldfish, and she was stuck. But there I was with less responsibility than that at the time. And I still had some opportunity to make a move and take a real risk, really for the first time. And so I turned in my 2 week without a job at 28. And that was, I mean, listen, I was like most of us taught if you make good grades and you get good behavior, A plus B plus C, you're going to get D. It's going to happen. And let's be honest, my D didn't come the way I thought it would. I was like, I've been lied to, something's wrong, what is it? And so in quitting that corporate job, now I will say this, not everyone should quit their corporate, that's not the point. The point is for me, it was required because it set me on this new trajectory, fast forward 12 years. But it was that next 6 months of time, 6 to 12 months, where I had to go through a process that I wouldn't recommend to anyone unless they're like, I had to face uncertainty. I had to face fear. I had people invite me out for a movie. And I was like, I got to make sure my water bill gets paid because I quit a job, you know. But it was that season of life where my new sense of self was being forged. I had to embrace divine things that I didn't know if were true or not. I had to depend on things greater than myself and step out to find out. And somehow I got through it. But it was that time that forged in me this sense of identity. And then practically, you know, there's so many things. Like I like to journal. I like to think creatively, where you can challenge yourself in your way of thinking to form identity statements and kind of bring that sense of self together. It's the starting point. Identity is the starting point.
So you never obviously wish somebody to have to go through that. However, that period of time was incredibly purposeful, right? Like I have crazy my story of like my health journey, all those types of things. I would never wish it upon anybody. Like it sucked. It absolutely was horrible. However, and we all have our own like struggles journeys in our own way at the same time. But I think at least from what I know to be true, those are incredibly influential for us to discover who we are in those. When you're put up against those tough times, those big old like I'm as naked as I can be up against the world, right? Like that's the place where you really get to discover what's deep inside of you at the same time, which is
True. Very
really
true.
cool.
Very
Yeah.
true.
Well, so kind of going deeper with that too, because even just playing off of the conference, like one of the questions that was posed to us is, yeah, like if you have to go through a lot of uncertainty and you're being forged in the fire or your marbles being chiseled into the person you need to be, like, yeah, you will have a very profound and strong story. How do you invite people in that are on two different boats? Like, one, maybe the person that really hasn't grown up or gone through a lot of adversity and they've had a seemingly easy or just fulfilled life with like a supportive home environment and a supportive, like, just natural flow to their life. So one on the side that's like, I don't have a story to tell, like nothing was really hard for me, like this is just where I'm at. And flip that with also a caveat, because I think a subcategory of that mentality could also be people that minimize their potential, like lowercase t trauma, because they're comparing, right, to like, well, someone else went through cancer, someone else went through this, or someone else completely changed their life trajectory. Like, I just, did this minor thing. Like, it doesn't really count. Nobody wants to hear about that little thing when they can listen to other people talk about these big life transformations, right? So, how do you invite people in that one may not realize or recognize that they have a story, even if it doesn't have a ton of adversity, but two, people that are actually minimizing the story that they are having being written?
Yeah, so a few thoughts there. Well, I could say that about me with the speaker stuff. Like you could consider imposter syndrome. Like there's highly successful keynote speakers. Like their legs missing or they fell down a canyon, like that's their story. But my voice will attract my audience. And, so we each are significant regardless of our level of trauma or what we've been through. So I'll start with that. I think also it's like we're all raised in a different environment. I think our environments, our conditionings, all of that factors into the sense of self and how we're wired and what we think. And so it's like a filter we have to go through. But I just gave a talk recently about this, and I think this will answer the question. If you consider your life a tapestry. So our fourth grade trip, we went to Biltmore Estates. I don't know why you'd take a bunch of fourth graders to Asheville to see Biltmore. Like the whole time they were talking about the Vanderbilts, and I was like, isn't that a college in Nashville? But anyway, so I was confused. But we go in there and they're like explaining these tapestries, these large rugs hanging from high ceilings. And so if you think of your life as a tapestry, and it's got to be woven together with threads. And so if you imagine your life as threads and themes, like, look at the things that got you excited when you were younger. For me, it was a drum I got for Christmas, so I'm a drummer. It was arts and crafts in my childhood bedroom that sparked creativity, aka becoming a chef and enjoying that. And it was having that musicality. And I had like a wellness book with the kid on it who was like posing like Schwarzenegger. Like, it was the fact that I majored in dietetics in college and I'm a food and fitness enthusiast. So these were themes in my life. And then threads are some of the adversities I've been through. It's thinking I had a plan A and I had it all figured out. And then I relocated from Nashville without a 5-year plan and then moved back to be around family and things didn't go as imagined. And then went through 2 unexpected divorces despite my best efforts. And it's like, I'm still here, I'm still standing, and the next 40 years are the best is yet to come. So it's like, connect the dots,
Totally.
To connect that to this next question, a lot of times I think, like, especially what you just said, all these different threads and the tapestry of your life can lead then to some analysis of paralysis by the next decision that you want to make sometimes and keep people from making those moves. And you talked a little bit about your own limiting beliefs that you've had to navigate to be able to, before you made a move. You also seem like somebody that's like, is willing to take a risk and willing to like put yourself out there, but I'm sure you've had to navigate that. And I know, at least for our listeners, we have a lot of people that are working through those decisions of like, what would keep me from doing this and why would I not jump, right? So what were some of those limiting beliefs that you had to work through to be able to take that big leap? And what would you encourage people, especially as they see the tapestry of their life unfold before them, to be able to take that next risk?
Yeah. So with my speaking, I'm focusing on college students and mid-career professionals. I think in today's culture, if, anytime we're doing, at least for me, you're scrolling through Instagram, it's like side hustle, 9 to 5, start this, whatever. But not everyone should quit their day job. So I just like to say that. But when I left that corporate job, that was the first real risk I'd ever taken. Again, I was taught and conditioned, make good grades, be a good kid, be nice, smile a lot, and everything's going to be okay. The problem with that is, oh, by the way, you get taken advantage of and you likely will finish last. Because I grew up with some intimidation and a sense of inferiority and insignificance because there were some missing pieces, and so there was that. But a couple things I had to face quickly when I left that job was this idea of living with uncertainty and not having it all figured out. For example, my father was mostly self-employed his whole life, and we never had discussions about business or why he took out a line of credit on this or why he was selling cars. Like, I didn't understand any of that, but I thought I had to know everything up front or have a business degree or all of that. And so I had this entrepreneurial itch for a long time, but I didn't know what to do with it because I thought I had to know it all up front. The fact of the matter is you can figure it out as you go, as long as you ask experts. And so I learned that. So facing uncertainty and living with questions. Questions, I like to say this, questions cause anxiety, periods produce power. If we can play by periods, there's security there, right? And so instead of running around with chicken like your head cut off, like, come from a posture in a place of security. So living with uncertainty, learning to trust over trying. Like, making good grades is easy, folks. Going to college, pick the major, whatever. No, so there's that. And then trust over trying is what I wanted to say there. Uncertainty. And then this idea of risk. We should learn to embrace responsible risk where appropriate. And most of the folks in the entrepreneurial world, most of the folks that are doing things like you all, like there's a measure of risk we have to live with.
Mhm.
You've also, I love that because you talked about I actually literally just watched one of your Instagram videos before we came on here, and you were talking about the difference between having a closed fist and an open hand.
Yes.
And like, I know this to be true. It's like we have one of our mentors, I literally read his book. He's called Holding On Loosely, right? It's
Mm.
like holding on loosely to this idea of we may not know where we're going and all we have is this present moment, and I can dream and I can have this desire and I can trust along the way, but if I got this closed on fist on there, I'm not letting anything flow through me, right? Like nothing's going to flow if I'm like holding on so tightly. So
Yeah. Can I interject and add on to
please
that?
do. Yes.
I love that. I love that. I'm a part of Amy Porterfield's one of her coaching programs or
Awesome.
email list building. Anyway, she made a comment once. She's like, you don't have to go through life white knuckled, close fist, holding on tight. Like I've got your back, you know. But I think there's this sense of learning to let go, because what happens is if you live with closed fists, you're limited to yourself. But if you learn to live with open hands, like you can receive and you can be guided and you can be open to moments of synchronicity, but also your capacity is expanded because you're now open to others around you.
Mm.
Absolutely. So, what does responsible risk taking actually look like now for you in practice as you've developed more of a voice and you're not just like the nice guy, but you're also making sure that you are leading your life in a way that you need to and creating a movement and a boundary around what you're being called to do?
Yeah. So now that I've started to show up with intention on social media and kind of put my voice out there, and like that's something you have to start, and you're not going to start your first version is not your last edit, right? And so, but the neat thing about that is I've been in town, I've been buying meat at the butcher shop, or I've been out and about, and people that know me are like, "Hey, I saw your last video," and like kudos, like pat on the back for putting yourself out there. I wouldn't do that. That's hard, you know? And for me, it was a really another limiting belief. And I'll shameless plug, like I talk about an onion, like peeling back the layers and getting to the core. But I was so in the closet. I was so false self behind a fig leaf because I wasn't always encouraged to share my opinion. I would be in a corporate meeting at the casual dining chain, and I was quiet because I didn't know how to really articulate my thoughts, believe it mattered, and sit in my power seat, sit in my authority as a secure person, and offer what I could bring to the table. Like the lights hadn't come on there yet, and so a lot of this is, if I may use the coming out of the like I had to like get out, be courageous, and see what happens. And so that's not easy. That's challenging. It's still a work in progress, but I've got some momentum now, and it feels really nice. So
When did you start seeing that truth come to life where you were just being silent and not actually like living from your true power?
oof, it's always kind of been there. It's like an undercurrent a little bit. You know, it's this last 10, 12 years of my life, I guess my 30s. I just turned 41.
I'm
There
about to
was
be 41 in August. I'm right there with you. So I understand.
okay, so I'll say this. So like you're 30, you're 32. I feel like there was like a perspective shift then. And then people are like, well, you don't look 35. I'm like, thank you. I'm active. It helps. And then, and then you're like 39 and you got some friends that are almost 39 too. And they turn 40 like 3 months before you. And then like a gray hair shows up and you're like, I got to get that tight fade. So that just gets hidden. And then it's like, you're 40 and you're like, wait, at best, I mean, I got like 40, 50 more years. So it's like you start to put things in perspective. Certain things don't matter as much anymore. Feel a sense of urgency. For me, I really feel like the second half of my life is going to be more impactful, greater, higher level. The best is yet to come. And I think everything I've been through this far, things I've alluded to, are set up for my success. And it's not just about me anymore. And so there's that. But I think to answer your question, there's just been this undercurrent for a lot of my adult life. And only until recently, after 2023 and after some work on the internal stuff, heart work, YouTube binging, book reading, some therapy, whatever, like there's someone who needs to hear what I have to say because they're going to need help too. And I have a sense of responsibility and or obligation. Like if I was born for this, I have to do something with it. I cannot just sit on it because it's easy to anymore. So
Yeah, and you just never know, like I mean, I love this, how your story can actually inspire someone else to live more from their own. And it's just such a beautiful gift when you're in this space to have a small piece of the puzzle of transforming someone else. So like even you talked about like doing the inner heart work and having these resources that really led you down this path. I think that stuff is important. What are some of your favorite ones? What are some of the individuals, leaders, people, books, YouTubes, podcasts, etc.?
Oh,
Kind of open.
yeah. Let's see. Off the cuff here. There was this lady I found on YouTube, Stephanie Lynn. You ever heard of her? Shout out to Stephanie. She okay, that reminded me. So one of the themes I dealt with was narcissism. I heard that in a Taylor Swift song once, but I didn't know what it meant. Oddly enough.
I'll hear a couple things in Taylor Swift songs where like,
Shout out to the Swifties. We'll save that for another conversation. Anyway, but like I had to learn about narcissism and what that meant. I had to discover like entitlement and some themes of that nature to kind of wrap my head around what I was going through and dealing with and how to combat that. I found there's a guy on YouTube, Ben something, Raw Motivations. If you guys are watching this, what's up? Anyway, but his thing is like narcissism, and he was a cheating husband who figured out his situation. They got back, whatever, worked through it. But like I went to YouTube a lot. I found a couple resources there. Dr. Caroline Leaf, I've listened to some of her stuff. The Body Keeps Score. I think that's a book that y'all are probably familiar. Yeah, I read some of it. It's a little technical, but I'm a reader. I'm a podcast listener. Mind Valley and masterclass are near and dear, so I try to plug in when I can and learn things. So
It's amazing.
yeah,
It's funny that you mentioned the fig leaf and the false self. Our mentor he actually wrote a book called The Modern Fig Leaf, is
wow,
what he called it. So you should go check it out. Pablo Giacopelli, Modern Fig Leaf. And it's a lot about false self. It's a very big book, very detailed. You have to take your time to read it, but if you're a reader.
yeah.
But what you talked about that in regards to like coming out of the closet, putting yourself out there, like actually like owning that voice. What was one of the biggest things in your brain, or like what were you most afraid of if people, not only if you put yourself out there, what people would perceive, or what you were afraid people would perceive if you actually put yourself out there?
Yeah, I want to say this first. What I like about that analogy there is, from a historical perspective, even it was God coming to Adam to say, "Who told you you were naked?"
Mm-hmm.
And then he tried to save himself from a fig leaf, which begs the question, who told you, fill in the blank, right? Who told you that you were not enough? Who told you that you were insignificant, right? And then we are like scrambling. Mike Foster, The Primal Question, I'm reading this book right now, and he talks about personality types and how we scramble as a default. And so I think two things that I was fixated with is like, what if I make a mistake that's irreversible? What if I'm not perfect? I've struggled a lot with perfectionism, certainty, and control. And what if I'm insufficient? What if I put myself out there? What if I go to slay a giant and like, I'm not enough? So those are two things.
do you find those themes both in your personal life as well as in your professional?
Oh yeah. And for me, one of the things I like about being an entrepreneur, doing my own thing, being the CEO of me, is it goes back to the 3 Ps. It goes back to tapping into passion, purpose, and potential, because while it's important to have some boundaries, but to separate the two, like I'm able to connect the dots. So like I'm doing what I love with my skill set because there's an overlap personally and professionally. I think that makes sense. Yeah. And so for me, like I try to draw lines with like managing time and everything. I was out to dinner last night and I actually ran into a former dinner party client. He had said something. I didn't hear him. The ladies at the table next to him introduced themselves to me. I was trying to turn off work for a minute and be present, but I had to give a little spill and smooze. But anyway, but for me, I'm so grateful because there's a healthy overlap that I don't have to go clock in and be miserable for 8 hours and then come home and have a hobby or numb myself on Netflix. Mm-hmm. It's not like that. And I'm grateful. You know?
Yeah. Cause you've done the work and you're like settled in yourself, which is so freaking cool.
Yeah.
So obviously now I'm sure you've watched this, and obviously I'm being an educator, being in the world of teaching and I've never gotten to taste your food, so at some point that should happen. Um, but at the same time, like, yeah, I would imagine you're now starting to see this ripple of like you actually putting your voice out. You talked about going to a butcher shop. People are like watching your video, like, hey, thank you for doing this, all that type of stuff. What transformation in your own life do you feel like is rippling out to the people around you the most?
I've got a picture in my bedroom. It says one word on it. It says inspire. And there's something, even since I was like a teenager, the idea of being an inspiration and offering encouragement have always resonated with me. And so I've tried to live in such a way that that resonates. And I hope that for folks that have seen me show up on Instagram and LinkedIn the last 6 months and will continue to see me evolve there, they find some measure of inspiration and encouragement to say, hey, you know what? Like, this guy looks kind of polished on the outside. He smiles a lot and it looks like he works out. That's great. But like, he's been through something and he's been tested, and this is real and it resonates, and maybe I can make an adjustment in my life because of it, and I'll be better for it as well. One of the things I love about the food metaphor, and so I'll tell you a quick story. So I was unpacking groceries for a dinner party a couple years ago, and like, I'll shop at Trader Joe's. I'm still waiting on a hoodie. I shop there like every day. They won't even throw me a hoodie. I'm like, they offered me like part-time work to get the discount. I was like, no, I ain't got time for that. But I was just unpacking groceries, and the client was like, of course, she picked the menu, but it wasn't like foie gras or truffles. It was a lot of everyday items and ingredients. And it made me think about that. And I liked the phrasing. And I was like, you know what? Like, the only time I want vanilla is with my ice cream. I want to add more flavor. I want to bring more to the table, but like, I'm elevating everyday ingredients when I cook. And so now you'll see it like in my marketing, it's elevating every day. And what that is about is like 1% better every day. Like, let's continue to push ourselves, evolve, do hard things so that we get better every day. Spice up our life, so to speak, and keep growing, keep evolving, and ultimately finding fulfillment and purpose.
So good.
Yeah.
What do you feel like is at the edge of this next comfort zone for you that you feel like you're like being called into, that excites you, terrifies you, that's like this vision for your life next?
Yeah. So if you're on my Instagram, I offer like coaching clarity calls that walk through the tip of the iceberg of one of my frameworks. And so I had a call the other day, and this guy was asking questions about pivoting in his career, asking about how I started my food business. And then he made the comment, he goes, so with this speaking, he's like, most people are afraid of public speaking. He's like, you're not? And I go, depends on how you look at it. There is, for me, there's such an energy when I present or when I speak, unlike anything else right now in my life. Part of that's because it's a challenge. Part of that is because I only speak about what I know or what I've been through. Pro tip number one. But I also know that because of what I've been through and the work I've put in to hone a skill, my words carry weight. And I say that because then I know that that presentation will produce a transformation that can change a life. And that's incredibly rewarding. And so right now, I feel like I'm perfectly positioned somehow, because with my current work, I can pencil in meetings and tasks and to-dos. I don't have to like clock out from an employer, but I'm spinning a lot of plates right now and doing a lot of things on the daily to move the needle. But it's just continuing to evolve as I move more into the speaking space and I get the opportunity to impact more lives. I want to have a digital course. I want to have some digital assets to go along with that and support the overall mission. And so we're building those in sequentially over the next 3, 5, 10 years. And so it's this mixture, it's this kind of perfect secret sauce of nervous excitement, courage, and like an authentic energy that comes with it.
Have you ever considered marrying two passions of your chef artistry and your speaking? Like dinner and destruction or dinner or like, almost like matching certain sensory experiences from the food and the ingredients you elevate into taking people down the journey of your 3 Ps, for example.
I like what you're thinking there. Yes and no. We might have to talk more about that. I love ideas. Well, here's what I will say. So I'm a part of 2 speaker coaching communities and groups, and I presented on there as like we had an exercise, and I had a couple different stories and examples, but all the feedback on the Zoom call was like, they wanted to hear more about the chef stuff. And for me, on some level now, it's kind of like, I hate to say old hat, but it's just commonplace. And part of me never putting resources into social media was because like, we have Gordon Ramsay, but we don't need another guy on YouTube cooking food. Like, I never wanted to be that guy. I wanted to be something authentic, unique, and different. And so, but they really wanted me to lean into the chef. And so from a marketing standpoint, that's the plan, is to lean into the chef with a lot of analogy, story, metaphor, because for the most part, food is a universal language. So yes to that. What it looks like, TBD. I will say this. I was on a Zoom the other day and I was talking to another speaker and we were talking about packages, pricing, and plans. And he was like, there's some of us who offer packages or experiences rather. So you speak and then you have a workshop or consulting or some sort of experience. So there's a place, I think, for tying that together through food to create experiences for people. So yes, somehow.
You were about to get me on here calling you out. We don't need another Gordon Ramsay. You don't know what your chef experience or someone else that's listening to this may be inspired to be the next, you know?
Yeah, that's true. So there's some of that. I will say this. I
don't mean even just for you, but like it's someone else may have that as a full passion and dream.
Yeah, I enjoy sharing what I know. I enjoy helping people. And that's one reason I went into teaching. We haven't tapped on that yet, but that's one of the reasons I went in on teaching on the front end of it. I enjoy that. I enjoy instructing. So yeah.
Are you still doing the personal chef side, and are you still teaching? What are you actually currently doing?
Yeah, so I had the business 4 years, went and did high school teaching 5 years, resigned 2 years ago.
Okay.
I'm still full-time as chef, but prospecting and pitching heavily to start to get opportunities and ultimately transition over time.
To just be doing speaking and just this next like enterprise.
Yeah. Speaking, workshops, etc.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I've got 4 like presentations together, and then those can be turned into like 90-minute workshops where we kind of do deep dives. I've got the 3P framework, one I call the fulfillment formula, and then that tapestry message. So we walk through people through practical, like how to, let's be inspired, but let's figure out what that means,
Do you find a lot of your people are more online, or are they local?
Ultimately, I want to branch out. I want to be national at some point. I think the Knoxville market's a great place to kind of network and get going. I'd love to connect with colleges here in the region and some companies if it fits, but ultimately it's a bigger, broader market we want to go after. So
why like college, early business people?
Yeah, well, for a lot of speakers, they pick college corporate conference. And I think right now the message that I want to share fits that college audience the best. And so I am connecting with student success centers, career development centers in colleges and working with them to impart that message. Yeah.
Well, so tell us, like, how did you get involved in teaching? And obviously, like, you went back to develop a culinary program at the school?
Yeah. So this was, what year was this? Roughly 2016. I had a colleague at a local high school say, hey, they're starting a brand new culinary program at the other high school in the county. I mentioned you. He's like, I don't know where you are with your business, but you should at least go talk to him. So I said, okay. So, at the time I was like, maybe this isn't the long game. Maybe it's worth going and having a discussion. So I go over there, interview, they show me the classroom. It was like a home ec classroom built in the 80s with 3 kitchenettes, 2 inches of dust everywhere, and booger green cabinets. Like, I'm not kidding.
That's amazing.
And they're like, you want me to do what with this facility? And so, they interviewed several folks, ending up offering me the job. I crunched the numbers, decided to make the move, take a pay cut, and keep my fingers crossed. So that's what we did. I thought it was going to be the long game. It was nice to have some insurance and benefits, that whole deal on some level. I went into it because I enjoyed being in front of people. Honestly, I wanted to hone that communication skill set. And, my brother, I've got a twin brother, and he is a teacher 17 years. And so outside looking in, I thought I knew what it was about. The whole summers off thing is a joke, so don't believe that lie. But About halfway through, I realized, you know what, this is not exactly what I thought it was. And I missed many of the benefits of doing my own thing. And so I decided to change again. So
What was it that you were missing from the world of entrepreneurship, not just sitting behind and teaching kiddos?
that's a deep well. I'll start with, if I had 100 kids a semester in 5 years, let's say that's 500 kids, or 1,000, sorry. There was about 10 or 15 that I can remember that I had like an impact on or impacted me. Like, you remember certain ones. And that was incredibly rewarding, and I don't regret it one bit. I'm wired in such a way. One of the things I talk about in one of my frameworks is working the way you're wired, your authentic sauce, your signature swag, your expression. And I was just wired for more. Like, for me, it felt like I was trapped in a box. Obviously, there was a ceiling financially. I knew I was earning a lot more. I was motivated by that. And, you can only spend so many plates for free and get paid for a quarter of those. I was like, this is not for me. And that's putting it nicely. So those are a few reasons why. And I think it takes a special person nowadays to live in that world. It's a system, and it's built for the masses. It creates employees. It doesn't create entrepreneurs. They're asking students to be adults very, very early. A lot of pressure there. I don't like that. There's emphasis on math and science, but everything that's producing money these days is arts. Mm. Come on, somebody. There's a lot of good stuff in it. Don't get me wrong. I just realized halfway through, when the students make fun of the teacher's salary, and I'm sitting here going through the motions and barely getting out of bed in the morning and slugging myself to work. Come on, that wasn't for me. And so I decided to leave. I got to tell you a story there. So I hope this encourages someone. So they hired me. They offered me the job. I took a pay cut to do it. When I decided to leave, I sent the email. Can we have a meeting, sir? So I go down to the office, the gentleman who hired me, and he goes, is this a good meeting or a bad one? And I responded with, well, depends on how you look at it. And so we sat down, and I told him what was going on. And this is for those of us that did all the right things and it didn't work out quite the way you expected. I said, listen, if I did all the things y'all told me to do, the teachers of my era, the system, make good grades, get the loan, go to the private institution, A plus B plus C and D, and this is my one day. It's this idea of our one day. So many of us are living for one day. Our one day is today, it's the present. And I said, if this culture, environment, level of living, for me, if this is my one day, I was lied to, because this kind of sucks. So there was that. And then he said, hey, we brought you in. We knew we could get you. We didn't know if we could keep you. I knew I was made for more, and so I pivoted again. So
I have definitely, I mean, I know, Marisa, you have too, known those moments where you hit up against the ceiling. I love what you said, like you hit up against and you feel like your level of enrichment to this world is only just made for more. And I mean, I think we've all noticed that. And also we come up against it, but then it's like, what do we do about it, right? Do you want to stay safe, stay comfortable? Are you going to hang out with the things that you know to be true? Or are you going to trust yourself, trust the uncertainty, trust the outcome that you don't know, and also just jump, like cannonball in, like the first part of this call that we talked about, right? Like the full cannonball.
There's a great clip I saw it on Instagram a few years ago. It's Will Smith. He's like narrating this thing, but it's that whole premise. There's like scene after scene of people jumping out of a plane, skydiving, high dive jumping. And it's just like this hesitation. But it's when they start to jump and embrace that free fall, there's a shift.
Have you ever jumped out of a plane? Ever gone skydiving?
But I'm going on a hot air balloon ride in a few weeks, going to Napa. So we're gonna see about that.
I jumped out of a plane when I turned 30, and it was
You did?
Yeah.
There you go.
How do you not know?
I will say, as a kid, I thought I could jump off my roof with like a grocery store plastic bag on my back, and that would suffice.
The original flying squirrel.
Mama said no, so I appreciate that.
So jumped out of a plane, perfectly good airplane, and like exactly what you said. There's that moment of like pure panic that goes through your body the minute that you get to the edge of that plane, like where it's like, am I literally losing my mother effing mind to do this like sensible thing, right? And then when you like actually tip over, really honestly forced over. So I think like life, such a good metaphor. Like sometimes life also just forces you to be able to take a step. Sometimes obviously, yes, we take a step, but the instructor that I was with, he's pretty much, okay, you ready? I'm like, no. And he literally just pushes us out. Like I didn't even have a choice, but in that free fall, that was where the magic, the exhilaration, the adrenaline, I mean, obviously all of it that just goes along with it. By the end of it, when I got done, I was like, can we go again? Like, I want to go back, what I mean? Like that type of an experience. So life obviously doesn't do that for us all the time. And it's not always that full of like adrenaline exhilaration, but it's cool.
I think it looks different for everyone. And this
Totally.
doesn't have to be in like business. It can just be in any space and place in life. But these are themes that I think we're wired to want to embrace in our own unique way. And some do and some don't, and some do it better than others. But like, it's a choice we have to make. And so I mentioned I'm a drummer, and to that point, like there's something about like I like watching drummers that are like charismatic, they're in the pocket, they're just kind of animalistic versus a stoic drummer. But like when you're like doing a fill or doing a build on the tom and snare, there's like, crescendo of energy and sound, and then an exclamation on the crash cymbals. Like it's that exhilaration that you feel. It's why people go to concerts and thousands of people are out sweating their butts off. Like there's an energy and a feeling that comes with that exhilaration. And I think we look for that. We want that,
You feel alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're living that with. It's amazing. So where can people find you and skydive or hot air balloon float into this world and work of just finding careers and life paths that fit so that they really live the life that they love?
Yes. So the idea there is, so I picked a major, then wanted to be a chef, and then this idea of my life. So what if we could retrofit that and ask bigger picture questions on the front end so that when we pick a major or when we choose a career, it positions us to create a life we want. For example, I didn't like working the night shift as a fine dining chef starting out. In fact, I hated it. I'd come home 1 a.m. and watch reruns of Everybody Loves Raymond till I couldn't do it anymore, and get up and do it all over again 5 days a week. And I was like, this is not. And so what if we could identify the life we wanted to build for ourselves? That's values and flow and schedule and money and all the things, and then find a career based off purpose, passion, potential that actually positions us to marry the two, do that on the front end if possible, and go further faster. And so that's the mission.
Cool. And how can people connect with you to do that?
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram. It's at Chef Kevin Culinary. Most of my content now is moving into the speaker content with culinary metaphor. So it's at Chef Kevin Culinary there. I'm on TikTok, but I don't do a lot because I'm not a dancer. And so it's Kevin Green Elevates. Check me out on LinkedIn, Kevin Green Elevates there. And then kevingreenelevates.com is the website.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for joining us and sharing about your heart and your life story. I know a lot of our listeners will be inspired by it. And so we're so thankful and hope that you enjoy the rest of this lovely weekend.
Yes. Thank you, ladies. Appreciate it. Thank you for all that you're doing. Appreciate the time.
Absolutely. So thank you for joining us on another episode of the Heartwork Podcast. We hope today's conversation has inspired you to lead with heart in your business and life.
If you enjoyed this, subscribe so you never miss a release, rate our show, leave us a review, get on our VIP email list, and join our exclusive Facebook group, The Heartwork Life, to plug into our community and learn from us and other heart-led entrepreneurs on a weekly basis.
We look forward to chatting with you next time.
Bye.